Welcome to the RFP Success Show with host Lisa Rehurik, the #1 sought-after authority on RFP success. Each week, we bring you information, strategies, or resources to help you win more business through RFPs and have a little fun doing it. Let's get this week's episode started.
Hey everybody, this is Lisa Rehurik, host of the RFP Success Show, and welcome back to part 2 with guest Robin Merritt, Senior VP of Global Strategy with the Axsium Group. Last week, Robin gave us some amazing insight into her strategies for success with RFPs, and we kind of left you hanging with the question, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you've made over the years? So let's pick up right where we left off.
I think what we were talking about earlier, which is when you try to read between the lines and you're trying to get in and think, what are they really trying to do? And we overcomplicate it. When what I find is we are really good in a sweet spot called labor standards. And that's, think back to manufacturing days or to grocery days long ago where you had a stopwatch and you would watch your employees do specific tasks. And then you would create an amount of time it would take them. And then you would utilize that to build the standards, which would get you effective productivity. So nowadays, it's much more advanced, and we do observations, we do videoing, we do surveys, we ask lots of questions, and we build out these great standards because then it tells you what's happening in your either stores or your manufacturing or whatever it is, right?
Okay.
But it allows you to build very, very strong schedules for your labor workforce. So we do that. We do it every day. And we had an RFP where it sounded like they wanted best practices in it. For instance, we went around and we do your labor standards, but at the same time, we also noticed, like, that really shouldn't be your best practice, right?
Right.
You're touching this particular product 14 times. You really should only touch it twice. So what we always say is that when you're doing labor standards, you should think about your practices and you should think about standardization. Nowhere in the RFP did it say that that's what they wanted to do. We just assumed, of course, you want to be better. Of course, you want to look at your processes and you want to standardize. And so we put this whole effort into it saying, we would take some of your practices, and if they weren't up to standard or to the best practice or preferred practice, we would go in and create new process maps for you and create new processes for you. And they kind of took it as so you think my processes are wrong?
Oh,
so what you're saying is you're going to find the wrong processes. Well, what we didn't know was this particular client had just gone through a really large best practice process reengineering effort the year before. Thank you, but no thank you, because we read into it what we thought, what they needed. If we would have asked on the open question seminar, if we would have said, so how are you with your best practices and your processes? Do you feel like you guys are on target with those? They would have said, oh, hey, great question. We just finished those last year, so we feel like we're pretty much in alignment with what we need. Great. So off we went, right? We didn't really take the time to utilize that open question time for digging in a little bit deeper. And what we said was, shame on us. We just assumed we knew the best practice and the best methodology.
And we see that all the time, with that. Because a lot of times the expert does see something that the client doesn't see long before the client sees it. Certainly a lot of the times, right? But you can't sell that. You can't sell to what they can't see. So, and that goes to the theme, actually, that we've been talking about so much is really understanding what it is that they need and not trying to read between the lines in the RFP that everybody always tries to do.
Exactly.
Yeah. Crazy. Well, I know we
have a list of all the things that we've done, right? I mean, to the point where we rushed to get something out and we left out a section. We just copied and pasted, and it looks like we copy and paste. Oh, not thinking you can win. We have to respond because it is a client. We'll respond to it, but we probably won't win this. And then learning later, you were the top 2, but we just didn't feel like you gave it your all, knowing what we've worked with you in your past.
Yeah.
Like we were like, duh, shame on us. If you're going to go for it, go for it.
Yes.
And don't be ashamed to tell people how good you are. This is the other thing I think that we have done poorly at times is why are we not taking this document that is our document and tooting our own horn? why are we not playing up our experience? Why are we not saying, hey, we are super good at this. You wouldn't want to hire anyone else, and here's why. Why are we not taking that advantage to do that?
Yeah, and I think instead what we tend to do is we tend to talk about all the things that we can do, but more from kind of like the how. Here's our process, here's all of this stuff, and like me, but not from a solution perspective. And not from that confident owning, here's why you have to hire us. Here's why we know we are the best solution for you, because bam, bam, and bam, versus all of the other crap that we tend to write about that doesn't matter at all. And we think we're tooting our own horn.
Absolutely. Right. When I say like tooting our own horn, is our sweet spot is labor standards and strategic workforce management processes, and helping somebody from an end-to-end solution understand workforce management, building staffing models and scorecarding. And we do all of these wonderful things in workforce management. We have an RFP in front of us being asked to solve a particular workforce management problem. And we spend all this time talking about our methodology and, we do this and that. Dude, what was the problem? Solve my problem.
Yes.
Tell me why you're really good at solving this problem. So stop all the other stuff. We get it. You're a great company. We wouldn't have even put your name in this to respond. Now tell me why you're so good and show me what you would do to solve my problem.
Yep, absolutely. I think that we really lose sight of that. Just show me why you are the right person to solve my problem. And it really does come down to that. And you said in the beginning, there's so much simplicity in all of this, yet we somehow make it more difficult than it needs to be. And that's a perfect example of that, right?
Yeah, remember that I think we also talked about we lost an RFP. We had direct contact with the individuals that made the decisions. And I asked them, I really want your feedback. I want to know why we lost this RFP. I want to know what we did wrong. And sure enough, it was based on just reading the answers. I didn't feel like you really understood my problem well enough to be able to solve it. I felt like you could probably get there, but did I really need that when somebody else came right out and said, here's your problem, here's how I'm going to fix it? And we did that just the opposite too. When we won an RFP, we asked why we won it. We kept thinking, we lost a couple in a row. Okay, why did we win this one and we lost the other one? So we even asked this customer, can you tell me why we won the RFP? And they were kind of taken aback because they said, oh, okay, well, here's how you scored. Yeah, I know, right? Here's how you scored and what you scored high on. Here's where we saw a few areas. And I said, good. I want to know those areas because I want to make sure as we go forward in solving this problem and you've engaged with us, is that we keep those high on our radar because those are the ones you're concerned about. And they said, you know what? We are going to do this from now on, is that we're going to have a bit of a download after we announce the winner. We're going to talk to the winner and say, even though you won this, we do want to let you know on the scorecard, the low end of it are these particular areas, and we just want you to have those highlighted so you know that they're out there. So, I mean, it was on our target that they were worried about us being a small company. Do we have the bench strength to be able to replace or fill in if needed? We made sure that they always knew other people from our company and not just the ones working on their project, and they felt so much more comfortable.
You know what? And that's such a really great kind of lesson learned. I want to make sure all the listeners hear that. When I work with my clients, the ones that have been around for a while, they all have a process for debriefing on when they lose. But very rarely do people go in and ask why they won. And you would be surprised at how much you can learn about what actually did not go so great in your RFP. You won because somebody else was worse than you were. Or there's one or two points that you made that really set you above and beyond that you can learn to take into other proposals. So I love that you guys do that. And it wasn't even just about learning it from the business development perspective, but learning how to service your client going forward. You've got this new client now, and that helped you learn how to be even a better partner to them going forward. How cool is that?
We didn't think anything about that was going to be the outcome of it, right? We were just thinking about how are we going to write better RFPs in the future because we'd lost a couple.
Yeah.
We never thought that it could be very useful in that kind of way. So I think that's so cool.
Huge, huge. So would you say that was one of your most painful losses, that first one you talked about? Because that's hard, because you knew you could have done a better job at showcasing how you could have solved their problem. And so that had to be painful.
Because then you look back and think, that was so easy for us to win.
Yes.
We could have won that. I think a lot of times too, again, going back to those difficult questions, is don't be afraid, and especially like this was a client that we had a relationship with. I think it's okay to find your intel, go to your relationships that you already have and ask those questions of, look, here's where our mindset is. We feel like you guys are already in the circle of very close to choosing someone. This is just to check the box off, and sometimes they'll actually tell you, no, this is not to check the box off at all. It is going out to bid for real. We really appreciate you guys being it. So I feel like, again, don't go in halfway. Don't go in just to check the box. Don't go in at all if you're doing that.
Yeah.
You go in full force on everything that you do. I mean, that's how I feel about it.
I love it.
Especially after we lost that one.
Yeah. What's your favorite win? Like one that was a really big push that you guys were like, oh my God, we've got a slim chance of winning this, but we're going for it. And you actually pulled it off. Do you have one of those?
I feel like we had one that we thought was in the bag. And then honestly, even thought that we were kind of like a slam dunk. And then we realized that we actually got called in for orals, and there were 3 other people there. And when we got there, they were 3 other really strong teams that were there. And we're like, wow, we didn't even know they knew about this proposal. We thought this was just, again, checking the box.
Yeah.
And we were competing against a vendor who we would have ended up working underneath and subbing under. And that's not always the best ways that we, like to do it, right? We like our own. So we all of a sudden had to put our competitive hats on and say, wait a second. We worked through the night, a couple of nights, made some changes, got the presentation, and we really went after it again with, we don't really have this in the bag, right?
So a renewed energy.
And all of a sudden we have to figure this out. So we did, and then we felt like, did it feel like it was really rushed? Did it feel like it was put together at the last minute? We kind of felt that way because we were that way. But it came across as very confident. We had the right people in the room, and we were really nervous. We did not think that we won it. We did, but they told us afterwards that, yeah, we didn't know if you guys knew that it was really competitive. And we said,
wow.
We knew when we walked in and saw everybody in the lobby together. So it was scary for a second. And it was one that we'd already, which you should never do, we'd already kind of put into the revenue stream and said, yeah, it's kind of a done deal. And, oh, yeah, we're going to chalk this $1 million deal up and whatever it was. We got a little scared for a second, but it was a good scare because it made us come in, I think, harder, more competitive, and it taught us a lesson to never take advantage of a client that you already have, or always estimate that it can be competitive.
Yeah, it's true. I will tell you that when we do proposal reviews, when, companies are bidding on something and they bring us in just at the tail end to review it before they send it out, that objective review, the worst proposals are the ones where they're the incumbent. And they do a really bad job, of really showcasing why they want the business back. They just assume they're going to get it. So, yeah.
When we work with our clients, we're doing the scorecarding and scoring after the RFPs and after the demos if it's through a vendor. It's so shocking and it's so upsetting when the incumbent, you can tell, doesn't put the effort in.
Yeah.
A lot of times, especially if it's in a demo type of RFP, we make sure that we tell them that we'll give you all of the same feedback, right? Yeah. So if I tell one vendor, I tell them all. We're very, very fair across everyone that's competing in it. But we will tell them all, please never step away as the incumbent. Believe that it's the first time that you've engaged with them. Yep. You've got more intel than anybody else. Use it to your advantage. When you use it to your advantage, it can be powerful. When you use it to your advantage to say, oh, I got this, I'm already working with them on something, it can be so disruptive and destructive. Use it the right way.
Yep, I wholeheartedly agree. All right. So what advice would you give small businesses or, companies that don't have a lot of resources, companies that are just starting out with RFP responses? What advice would you give them who are struggling to win RFPs? And same question for large companies that have a big proposal team, because they all think that the other one has it easier or better. But what is your advice to both of those kinds of entities where they might be struggling to win RFPs?
It's funny. I don't think that I would change my advice based on any size of a company, because my advice is very simple. And it's probably two clear areas. Find people in your organization that are subject matter experts to provide you with the information. So whatever the solution is, the methodology, find the person who is truly a subject matter expert, and then find the person who really, really enjoys writing. Believe it or not, I think we know this. These days, you can spend an entire day without physically writing an entire sentence between texting and quick answers here and there and the age of apps. We don't spend a lot of time writing full paragraphs and full sentences.
Yeah.
But there are people that really, really enjoy it. Find those people, because the people that don't like writing, they'll procrastinate. They'll take forever, and then it's like the hour before it's due or the night before it's due, and they're putting everything together. Find the people that enjoy this. There are people out there that really enjoy writing and that can find the common threads and then can make it flow. And that person might be in accounting, but don't write them out of not being part of the RFP. It doesn't have to always be sales and marketing and whomever. Take a step out and ask the question to the company. Whether you're small, medium, or large, people like that. They like writing. And I think the other thing is, between all the things that we talked about, go all in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if you have 15 RFPs a day as a large company that you're responding to. Every single one of them, go all in. Go 100% every time you do it, or don't do it at all.
Yeah, if you're going to go in, go all in.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's no in between in this.
There's no in between.
Either you want the work or you don't. So go in. Go all in. Even when we were at Arthur Andersen, we had an RFP team. It was across the globe. If you were responding to something that was globally, you had these 10 people. And then so it was great having the resources, because everybody had like a smaller part. But there was always somebody who enjoyed writing, who had the full edit capabilities when they put it all together. And it was that person that I think really tied it up in the bow, that made it flow and got the common thread and told the story. By the way, this is writing a book. This is a story. It's a short story. And you need to see it as a storyline, not in piece and part. This is your story. You got to tell it like it is. You got to be strong, and you got to be faithful to your story. Go all in with it.
Yeah. And, to your point about the subject matter experts, this is going to be a gross overgeneralization, but the subject matter experts write technically, right? They are not writers. They tend to write technically. They can tell you how to do it from a technical perspective, but they can't sell it most of the time. And so you've got to have that person in there that can, I hate to use the word spin. This isn't about spinning it per se, but you got to have somebody that can put that sales and marketing flavor to it to turn it into the story. Because what we want to do is we want to take our client by the hand and walk them through the story. We want to walk them through the garden of what we're giving them, right? And your subject matter experts most of the time are not going to be able to do that. So finding that writer is a great tip too.
Our subject matter experts that we have, we could not implement, we could not deliver the methodology, we could not deliver the solution without them. However, if I had them write the RFP responses, I don't think a lot of people would understand what they're writing, understand what the solutioning is.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you have to remember, like I said, I think in the very beginning, the person that's reading the RFP might not be someone that, again, raised their hand and said, I would love to read all the 25 RFP responses. It might be somebody that's in procurement. It might be somebody that's in operations that just happens to fall to them for this week. Or it might just be part of a big RFP team. You can't assume it's always somebody who can just get it and understands the technical solutioning of it. This might be their first line of defense, is to put somebody out there who really doesn't understand it that well. And if you can tell the story at that level and it passes through, then you're golden. But you got to get past the first person who's going to be reading it.
I love it. This has been such great information. Before we wrap up, is there anything else that you want to share based on your 18 plus years of experience and successful experience with RFPs?
I would say you're not going to get it right every time. You are not going to win every RFP. You can follow all of these pieces of feedback and all of these quick little tips and read your book and use Lisa for the material that she can help you with, and you're still not going to win them all. But you do have to remember that you've got to stay loyal to yourself, to your solution, to your company. Tell your story and just toe the line, in my opinion. Like, we know we're not going to win every one of them, but if we go in acting like we're going to win every one of them, putting your best foot forward, it hurts when you get the rejection. It hurts when you don't win. But you got to go back and either find out from that customer, why didn't I win? Because I want to be better next time. I sure want to be your partner at some point. How can I win next time? You might learn something extremely helpful. And who knows, that customer might go, wow, all right, well, I have another RFP coming up that might be closer to what, you offer. I think that you just have to stay close to it, right? And just, again, you lose 10 in a row, you lose 10 in a row. Keep going at it and finding out how to make yourself better after each one. You've got to tell a story. You've got to be engaging in your story. Take a chance on one paragraph. Tell something funny in a story if you think it can work its way in and be correct. Have a personality in your RFP.
Oh my gosh.
You've got to find a way to set yourself out.
And that's so big. And I talk about this a lot, the personality piece, because I'm like, you don't know what the other person that's reading it has gone through, right? Like, did they have a rough night the night before and they're barely hanging on and reading this? Like, give them something enjoyable to read, put some personality into it, give them a little bit of spark. So awesome, Robin. I, of course, loved our conversation that we had at dinner, and I love this one even more because you have so much great information and you have been around this for a long time and with a lot of success. So I thank you so much for being here and for sharing your knowledge and your expertise with our listeners.
You are welcome, Lisa. And I loved our dinner as well. As everybody probably knows you by now, it was over martinis. This particular conversation was not, even though I probably could have. I could talk about it forever. I think what you're doing, the book, the company, it doesn't really exist out there. And I wish 18 years ago when I started that I would have had some sort of guardrails or somebody like yourself that could have helped me understand how to respond and what I should be looking for and all those things about it. It wouldn't have taken me 18 years to get to answering RFP successfully. But I think that if anything people can take away from it is that there are resources out there, that there are so many different tools that you can utilize. This doesn't have to be painful. It doesn't have to be painful at all. So thank you, Lisa, for having me on today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure we'll probably tap into you to bring you on in the future as well. So thanks so much again. You've been listening to Senior VP Global Strategy, Robin Merritt with the Axsium Group on the RFP Success Show with Lisa Reharick. Talk to y'all next time.
You have been listening to the RFP Success Show with RFP expert Lisa Reharick, author of the RFP Success book. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet, make sure you click the subscribe button so you don't miss a show. And thanks for spending time with us today.